Dr. Andrews, I know you're concerned about injuries mounting, whether it's Tommy John or other type injuries to high school kids younger than that. What's your message to kids, coaches, and parents? What do they need to know in this day and time?
Well, the big problem is year-round sports. You know, we've got this situation going on called specialization, and it's most prominent in youth baseball, but it's happening in all sports. No longer is there the football player, the basketball player, the track athlete, and then the baseball player, and then 3 or 4 months off to recover from 4 sports. Now what we're seeing is specialization in one sport and no time off to recover. The big injury situation is escalating at a rapid pace. We now are seeing an epidemic of injuries in youth sports at all levels and all sports. For example, in baseball, youth baseball, here at the American Sports Medicine Institute, our statistics show that there's been a 5 to 7-fold increase in injuries to the throwing arm since year 2000. You might ask why. Well, I just gave you a little synopsis on year-round baseball as the #1 risk factor. What our research here at ASMI has shown is that if you play any youth sport, particularly youth baseball, to a fatigue factor, there's a 36 to 1 times that you can injure your shoulder and or your elbow in youth baseball. So fatigue multiplies your risk factor by 36 to 1. And fatigue is the big factor in any sport, any youth sport, particularly youth sports, more than mature adult sports. So our young kids basically involved in specialization need preferably 3 to 4 months off each year so that their body can recuperate in what we call periodization and recover so they can go back to their sport. I say preferably 3 to 4 months, at least 2 months off, for example, in youth baseball, where they're not doing an overhead sport or throwing. We've shown in our statistics on these young kids that require Tommy John surgery in high school that the average kid requiring Tommy John surgery in high school has only 1 week off each year where he's not competitively throwing. And that's usually the week of Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's.
You've had quite an increase in Tommy John surgeries, have you not, in recent years?
The number of cases that required Tommy John surgery back prior to year 2000 were 20, 30 cases a year, referral cases here, and now we're doing close to 200. Now some of those are because of long-distance referrals to us, because we're known for being able to do that particular procedure. But even with the referral base increasing, that's still, the numbers are way out of proportion. Not only do we see an increase here, but the other doctors that are around the country that are doing Tommy John surgeries are also seeing that increase. So that's way out of proportion. The number of injuries to the Tommy John's ligament in youth baseball is in epidemic proportions and is out of control. We have to do something about that, by the way. We've got to do something to keep these kids on the playing field and out of the operating room. They're really getting hurt before they get to be real baseball players.
Say if a kid wanted to play more than one sport, is he better off, you'd say, get away from, say, baseball if he did football and basketball, and this state stopped having what we call overlapping seasons so that you could have a kid play each sport a full season? Would you be in favor of things like that?
Absolutely. Anything that can give these kids the proper rest that they need to recuperate. And we're not talking about pure rest. We're talking about active rest is important. The problem in specialization is the high school coaches are telling these kids that if they don't play their particular sport and devote year-round to them, they can't make the team. Now baseball is a developmental sport. We're not against throwing. We're not against going in the backyard and throwing. The problem comes when you competitively throw. There's a big difference between throwing off the mound competitively and going out and developing your throwing arm. So we know that you've got to throw from a young age to be able to throw a baseball at a high level as you get older. But it's a competitive throwing, so the parents and the coaches think, and they mean well, but they just don't know. They think that more is better. So now you've got them playing more than in one league at the same time. You've got them throwing curveballs before they mature, which means before they shave. You've got them playing on a travel league and a regular league at the same time. You've got the pressures to stay in that sport and specialize. You've got the radar gun where they're trying to match throwing 90 miles per hour when they're 15 years of age. And you've got the showcases where they're going there and trying to overthrow, and really they should be called show-out cases because they go there and try to impress college coaches or scouts. And it may be sometime in November when it's cold. They're going there and overthrowing, and they're getting hurt in showcases. They're tearing their rotator cuff. They're tearing their Tommy John's ligament in their elbow at showcases. Now, some showcases are real good, but some don't have any real rules, and they've got some crazy things they do to try to track performance and endurance, and the kids are getting hurt. So there are numerous things that are happening out there that increase the risk factors in all youth sports, particularly youth baseball. You might ask, well, what do you do to prevent these injuries? Well, to be perfectly frank with you, most of these injuries can be prevented just using common sense. And that's what we're trying to do with our so-called STOP program that I'm heading up through the American Orthopedic Society of Sports Medicine. We're trying to get the message out to parents who mean well, to grandparents, to the kids themselves, and to coaches, so that we can educate the public about prevention. So far we've done a lot of different things like we're doing here tonight, but to be perfectly frank with you, we hadn't made a dent in it. So we need everybody's help across the country in this STOP program to try to help prevent these injuries.
Do you encounter obvious resistance when you bring these points up to, say, a coach or administrator or a parent or a player? Is there obvious resistance?
Not obvious resistance. When I talk to parents and coaches, they stop and say, "My goodness, I didn't realize that. I'm glad. I wish I'd have known that 3 years ago. Maybe my son wouldn't have gotten hurt." But there is some resistance out there when it's brought up outside of my realm or outside of somebody that's knowledgeable in it. From anecdotal situations, coaches will say to parents, "Well, I never had a kid get hurt on my youth baseball team. I've always allowed them to seek their own level, and I never had anybody hurt." Well, they'll say they didn't ever get hurt on my watch. The problem is if you look back at a kid that's a senior in high school or a sophomore in college or whatever, you usually can go back and then retrospectively determine that he got hurt when he was 10, 11, 12 years of age, but the coach didn't know it then. So what they're saying about not having injuries occur is they just didn't recognize it, and it wasn't recognizable at that point, but it shows up later, but it relates back to when they were very young and vulnerable.